I suppose I should probably do the recipe for this cake and maybe an explanation, a little explanation on it. I originally made this cake back when I was either 15 or 16 and in French club. And like so many of my other classes that I took in school, I did just fine on the oral and the tests, but I was really bad all through school about turning in homework. So I was always looking for extra credit. One of the things that we did, actually it wasn't French club, it was just French class, was we had a Christmas party, and for different extra credit points you could bring in different treats. And the best extra credit points for this party was to make the Buche de Noel, which was what I thought was a very complicated cake to make. But I needed the extra credits, so of course I signed up for the cake. And I made it, and I made one change when I was making the cake, and that was the whipped cream. You're supposed to, in a traditional Buche de Noel, use instant coffee granules and make a coffee whipped cream, which 15 or 16-year-old me thought that sounded absolutely disgusting. So I made my one change, which honestly I have followed any other time I've made this cake because it was a very worthwhile change. And so instead of using instant coffee granules in the whipped cream, I took a rolling pin as a kid, and actually for this time around I am going to take a chopper, because I did it with a rolling pin the first time I remade this recipe to see if it was going to work, which it did. It worked brilliantly. And a rolling pin just is kind of messy, so I remembered I have one of those nut choppers, and I busted up candy canes and made a peppermint whipped cream, which is so good. Like, it's absolutely delicious. And so that was the only real change that I made. So when we make this recipe, you're going to want to line a jelly roll pan, or I just used a sheet pan, with parchment. You're going to want to spray the pan and the parchment to make sure that your cake releases. And then what you need is about 2 cups of cream, which is going to be for your whipped cream. And this makes more whipped cream than you really need for the cake. But the whipped cream is, it's like chef's kiss good in either hot cocoa or in coffee. Like, I put it in my coffee last week, and it's really good. Peppermint whipped cream and coffee is phenomenal. But other than that, you need about half a cup of white sugar, and then about a half a cup of confectioner's sugar. You're going to need 1/3 of a cup of cocoa, about 2 teaspoons of vanilla, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 6 eggs. And that's it. That is all you need for this recipe. So yeah, we will jump in and start making this recipe. And hopefully you'll see, like, it sounds like, if I were to read the recipe out to you, it sounds incredibly difficult to do. I mean, you know, because it's a multi-bowl recipe, because you need a bowl for your egg whites, you need a bowl for your egg yolks and your cocoa, and then you need a bowl for your whipped cream. But it's really a very simple cake to make, which I personally find to be really awesome. So we are going to go make this cake. It's going to be, hopefully it'll turn out good. The first one I did turned out good, so hopefully this one will. So now that I have crushed my candy canes, I am going to make peppermint whipped cream, which I actually never found a recipe for. I just kind of made it up when I was 16 in French club. So it's just whipping cream, a little bit of vanilla, and some powdered sugar. Whip it till it's stiff, then you're going to fold in the candy cane, crush, and stick it in the refrigerator for later. Alright, that is all mixed, and it tastes really good. So we're just going to put this in the refrigerator until we need it. Alright, so I thought we would do this part outside, maybe with some friends. And this is the history of the Yule log. And I am reading from a website because I don't want to miss anything. So, as far back as the Iron Age, predating the medieval era, Celts and Gaelic Europeans celebrated Yule. It was usually a 12-day festivity that you had basically almost a tree-sized log that was supposed to burn for 12 nights. And as the centuries went on, come here. As the centuries went on, the logs got smaller, and smaller, and smaller. One big tradition, though, back in the Middle Ages, was that you were supposed to start your next year's Yule fire with a coal from the previous year's Yule log. And the whole idea behind it was you were going to be burning to keep away bad spirits and bad luck. And one of the websites that I was looking at, they said that they would put like different herbs and incenses. They would put like just different oils and things on the log to make it fragrant as they would burn it. And as the centuries went on and people's houses grew smaller and smaller, so you weren't in this giant great hall anymore, suddenly sometimes people didn't have enough space to do an entire basically tree in their hearth. So the Yule log shrunk to fit the fireplace, and instead of burning for 12 nights, a lot of times it was only burning for 1. And then it got downsized even further because some houses just didn't even have fireplaces anymore. So what people did was they would decorate a Yule log as a centerpiece for their Christmas dinner, which was really good until after a while, because they started hollowing out the log and filling it with candies and treats. And then somebody back in France got the bright idea to just make a cake or a pastry out of the Yule log, which is, I mean, hey, I am all for cake. And as you'll see when I'm making the cake, what you do is it's a French sponge, is the way I read it described. So there's no flour in it. It's essentially just eggs. It's eggs, cocoa, and a little bit of vanilla. And that's about all you need to make this cake, which is pretty impressive and pretty cool. I've already made the cake. I'm doing this after, because of course, if I had messed it up too bad and the cake came out really bad, then I probably would scrap this video, but it actually came out really good. In fact, this second cake came out better than my first one, so I am very pleased. And yeah, that's my very bad attempt at explaining the history of the Yule log and the Buche de Noel, or the Yule log cake for Christmas, or for Yule, which is a much older ceremony or an older celebration than a lot of others. But yeah, I'm rambling, so let me jump into doing the footage of the Yule log cake, and then that's about it. Have a good one. So after you have your egg yolks separated from your whites, which I did get a little bit of yolk in that white, but it's okay. It's all going into the same place. You're going to add a half a cup of sugar to your egg yolks and mix them until they are light and fluffy and the color has lightened. So that is what I'm going to do next. But as you can see, they are no longer orange, so we are going to add in 1/3 of a cup of cocoa, a teaspoon and a half of vanilla, and a dash of salt. I'm saying about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So, our cocoa. The neat thing about this cake is it's just an egg sponge. Like, it's actually kind of simple, and it sounds so much more complicated than it is. I was so afraid when I made this cake the first time that it was going to be so hard to make, and it really, really isn't. So anyway, let me get the vanilla and the salt in there and mix it up some more. Alright, and there is half of the cake base. So on to the other half. You have to wash your egg beaters, or your beaters basically, and we are going to whip up these egg whites until they just start to do the soft peaks. We're going to mix a 1/4 cup of confectioner's sugar into them slowly as we're beating them until we get our nice, stiff, shiny peaks. That's the goal anyway. And then comes the fun / hard part where we mix half of the egg white mixture into the chocolate mixture, kind of mix that together and get it really thoroughly incorporated, and then we fold the last half in to make it light and fluffy, and then we will be spreading it into our prepared pan, which is just lined with parchment, and then sprayed. I did learn you do want this sprayed. And then we're going to pop it into a 375-degree oven for 12 to 15 minutes. So let me get to beating. I think we've made it to soft peaks, but we are not yet at stiff peaks. So another minute. So I definitely get what they mean by shiny. It's kind of neat. So now our next step is to mix it into the chocolate mix. We're going to take about half of it, mix it, and then we're going to fold so carefully that last little bit. As you can see, that is loosening up quite well, so we are going to add some more of the egg white mix. And just carefully fold it in. Now the reason that you want to be careful with the last half folding it in is because there's no leaveners in this cake, there's no flour in this cake. All of the leavening and lifting in this cake is from your beaten egg whites. So if you're too aggressive, you're going to have a very flat cake. So let me get the last bit of this in and fold it in, and then we will spread it into our pan. And there we go. I think I didn't overfold it. So now we're going to put it into our pan and pop it into the oven for 12 to 14 minutes. Alright, we are spread into the pan and going into the oven. 375 for 11 to 14 minutes. While your cake is baking, you're going to lay out a clean towel dusted with confectioner's sugar onto something that you can turn the cake out onto, because our next step when this comes out is to turn it out. We're going to roll it up in this towel and leave it rolled up for like 30-ish minutes while it cools off. You don't want it all the way cool, otherwise it's really hard to re-roll, but you want to roll it up and let it cool, and then you're going to unroll it and put your whipped cream in it. Alright, it looks like it's done. You can tell if it's done when you touch it, and you just touch it really lightly and it springs back. So that is what you are looking for. Let's get it turned out and get this parchment peeled off. Wish me luck, this is always the tricky part. Also, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but you do want to spray both the parchment and the pan with a little bit of pan spray, because it makes it so much easier to get off. Okay, I did it. I'm so proud of myself. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more of the confectioner's sugar on here just to keep everything from sticking, and then we're going to roll it up and set it aside for about 30 minutes while it cools off. We've had a successful roll up. I'm always afraid that it's going to break, which the last time when I re-rolled it, it did break, but I think I said this during my apple cake thing, you can always fix things with icing, which I ended up doing, and it worked. So we're going to leave that for about 30 minutes. When it is all done, we are going to trim off the ends because we want some branches on our Yule log. And then we are going to fill, roll it back up, and ice it. Make it look like a tree. Alright, moment of truth. Is it going to break? A little bit, I think. But we are unrolling our now cooled off cake. And I'm going to trim off about an inch off of each end. It's the drier pieces, and that's what I'm going to use to make my knots with. Then we are going to spread whipped cream, and hopefully it won't be as messy when I roll up this one, because the last time the cream just sort of spooged out everywhere. We'll see. Oh, and yes, I probably made too much peppermint whipped cream, but that is actually not a problem, because I discovered that it is amazing in both coffee and hot chocolate. So, just a little FYI. This is really, really tasty stuff. I would eat some right now, but I really don't need it. Okay, next step is going to be rolling this up. I think it's going to work a little bit better this time. Don't quote me on that though. Last time I don't think I whipped my cream enough, and so it was a little bit thinner. This time it's a little bit thicker, so I'm hoping that it rolls up without being such an incredible mess. Fingers crossed. Not gonna lie, I'm so happy it did not break. Alright, now I just have to make a branch maybe 2, since I have 2 pieces here. Again, with the branch, you're just gonna spread a little bit of cream on it, roll it up. If it breaks, it's not as big of a deal because it's a branch. So let me do that, and then we will get our branches placed on our log, and then we're gonna frost it. I did not do homemade icing, but what I did do is just whip the icing that I had, the store-bought icing. Didn't add anything to it, I just whipped it to make it easier to spread. Because this cake is very, very, as you can see, it's not like a dense cake, it's a pretty light and fluffy cake. And you don't want to spread anything that's too stiff or cold on it, or it's going to break really badly. So let me get my knots made, and then we will get to icing this bad boy. FYI, my knots failed. They failed badly, so I am just going to make sure that this tastes good. That's what you're supposed to do, right? It tastes good, especially with the cream. Alright, fine. We're going to have a branchless cake, unless I can figure out some way to make that pile into some form of a branch, which I might be able to do, but we'll see. Anyway, next step, we're just going to ice this cake. Alright, so if you can't roll them up to make knots, take cake scraps and make branches. And I have seen people say that you can just take a fork and kind of drag it through to make it look like bark, but I think this works too. You kind of want it to look rough. And then another thing I've seen people do is either take coconut, which I'm not going to do because it's not really my thing, or a little bit of confectioner's sugar and kind of just sprinkle it across the log to make it look like there's snow on it. But there we go. One Buche de Noel, or Yule log cake, with a little bit of extra peppermint whipped cream. I am going to enjoy this later on tonight after dinner, probably.